This is the after show blab, the show we had with Martin Shervington about relationships and social media, why and how, and he gave us quite some
and stay focused. Stay focused.
This was the conclusion.
At least that's what I got, yeah.
And Hans, very grateful that you are here. And we let you speak first. What was your impression?
No, like always, I enjoyed the show. But rightly, as you said, Heidi, this time it was a bit like a tutorial for you two guys, which, but I think it was interesting to like be a witness to that as well. You see, I have never seen myself as a business person at all. I'm and I'm not. Other than you, I'm not offering any product. So I'm a bit of more on the consumer side, I guess, or I guess I also engage, also can contribute maybe sometimes, hopefully. But business has always been a concept so far away from me. On the other hand, of course, like I always engage in a lot of people's business, and I'd say in some way we are all having a business.
Yeah, I can so relate to that because I never wanted to do a business, you know. And then when I taught singing and voice, it happened. It happened. First, I worked. Somebody needed a voice coach, and I went there to their choir, and then from the choir came the first students, and then I went on and on and on. At the end, some years I had 30 students, weekly lessons to give. It was crazy. So I never had to think about business, you know. And when I decided to stop that and thought, now when I'm older, I want to have an income, and I don't want to run anymore 100 kilometers back and forth. So easy, internet. We have internet. And it's so different, you know. Now I see that I don't have any mindset of business, you know. I'm in Martin's academy, and they are talking about SEO, and I don't know what's the AdSense and AdWords and search, I understand, but a whole lot of technical stuff. And I'm for 3 years learning technology and technical stuff, and I didn't think it was so difficult. And the mindset of business, you know, I don't have it. I mean, really, I don't. I never. My one of my brothers is really good in that. Oh no, I would say 2 of my brothers are good. Yeah. My sister is not really good in it, and the other brother is not really good in it either. So
none of my brothers are. Yeah. All 4 of them. Yeah.
So maybe we can explore today a little bit, if you like to, apart from talking what Martin said, what mindset do we need? What is, let's say, wrong with our mindset that we say we are not business people? What?
I can start that one.
Okay.
Yeah. I just look at my own personal history and family history, and my dad was a working man, a very highly skilled working man, but definitely a working man. And merchants and bankers and business were enemies. You know, they were all out to take stuff from them. You know, they had no hearts, and he just did as little as possible with them as he could. He mellowed a little bit in his older age, but I was already formed. I'm sorry. And I really inherited that I just figured that I was going to be working for somebody else, whether it's in a business or in an institution, a school, or whatever, and I wouldn't have to worry about business. And I'm glad somebody else would take care of that. And I hope I'd get a piece of the pie, you know, and then I could quit and go on pension. You know, what a lovely life. You know? But that was the vision. That was the blue vision of the 50s, you know.
But at the end, it comes out of a belief that whoever does business is a bad guy.
They're not honest. You can't trust them. They just want to sell. That's all. Yep. Yep.
Yes.
How is it for you?
And I think, I think this also is a big theme in the whole green worldview, and probably we are still at least up to the ways to something in that worldview. I mean, I see it many times, you know, and of course this always, you can be critical of the way people do business, and of course we have seen in history that when the big orange wave kicked in, that there is a lot of dark sides of the business arena, and a lot of ugly things happen.
Mm-hmm.
I often noticed also in the integral forums, and that if as soon as something is like, or in the spiritual world a lot as well, as soon as somebody wants to sell something and something costs money, people are like kind of like, uh-oh, you know, and very skeptical about that. And I think, that's what it's about in Integral, also have to re-embrace that orange dimension and the strategical thinking. And I mean, I see it a lot in my job as a social worker, and I am very grateful that I personally don't have to think so much about the business side of things, but the big boss in the company, I mean, he is always thinking strategically, and he has to be careful on how to put even though it's an ONG, we have to exist and we have to compete as well. Even though we're not really making money for ourselves, we're not allowed to make more than a certain amount so that we can live a few months or in the future. And I noticed a lot, like among my peers, the other social workers, a lot of my colleagues are very like, you know, skeptical and of the bosses, because they are more looking into like to keep the business going. And we at the front as social workers, we're relating to people, and we often tend to be more idealistic and, you know,
spiritual.
Yeah, and all that ugly money part of things, you know, we don't really want to look into that. But the way I see it, I'm very lucky that my personal talent is not in strategical thinking, and I'm very grateful that there is somebody in the company who is, you know, playing that part, so that I can do what I'm better at, you know, communicating with people and just being in the one-to-one relationship and being part of a business too, you know, but sticking to my side of things. So I am very appreciative of my superiors, basically, you know.
I was going back to my upbringing. It was the traditional time where father earned money, mother is at home with the children. My mother had 5 children. And it was clear that as a woman, you would not really need to earn money. You have a husband who is providing for you. And so the mindset was, you don't really need to earn money. This is one thing. And let alone drive a business. I mean, this is different for people. For instance, I have a friend and she grew up in a bakery or something like this. And for her, it was clear. She began to work with the parents, and for her, doing business was a clear thing, you know. So it depends a little bit where you come from. While my father was teacher, and you know, with a salary at the end of, and when he became mayor too, he became just a salary, and that was it. So never any mindset for having to sell yourself. And then comes this, you know, maybe it's specific also for women. You have to sell yourself. When I, and it sounds bad, when I tried to become, I was a singer, but I never entered into I was in let's say in a lower circuit, and never entered into a circuit where you really make some money by singing. And there was always this fear that you have to go through the beds of the people, you know. It was very known in artists. So I never really went for it. I always hoped somebody would discover me, but I never did anything to, to propose myself. Selling yourself, it's like prostitution, So these are still two other aspects of the same thing, which hinders you to go out in the way, as Martin said, and do things. And strategically, this is like as if I would, how do you say, übers Ohr hauen.
Take advantage or cheat somebody, or
if you want to, if you would manipulate people, practically probably you do, but not every manipulation is bad. I mean, for instance, when I do voice training, I manipulate really on the body, the people, so that the voice comes out, or even with the experience I have, I know that I cannot do certain things, or I have to do certain things. For instance, there are people who say, I cannot sing and I don't want to sing. I said, no, it's no problem. You can come to the workshop and you don't have to sing. And then I begin with, with breathing and everything. And then they end up and they sing and they don't even realize that they do. So this is a sort of white manipulation which I'm using and which I think it's okay. But
I resisted. It didn't work.
No, with you it didn't. No. But when it is about, having people to sign up for something which costs, for something which doesn't cost, yeah, okay, I'm fine with it. Or making publicity for other people, this is fine. But for me, and then when we do the courses about marketing, they say what you should ask for, and I say, oh gosh, I cannot ask this money for what I'm doing. So last time, you were not there. There was Christina, and she talked about feeling worthy or unworthy. And I think this is also a big part of the mindset, why we have this block of entering into an entrepreneur mindset.
Well, I hear such things are so contrary to the way I have lived from business people. Online, I hear advice to don't make your program. First, sell it. Get the money, then make the program. Yeah, just completely different than the way I would normally. And you, I think we all would just not. Well, I have a program. I want to sell it, but create a program. At the end, after we've got subscribers, people who've paid the money, because I don't have that relationship with the content, that it's just something I can crank out, on order, from what other people want,
But some people do, and some people have very bad content. This is the other thing. On internet now, there is so much crap, and they ask a lot of money, and you think, oh, okay, So these are all these things.
Well, let's ask enough money that we only need one person to buy it.
Yeah, I went to Fiverr today because for the conference we probably will come, grab the money from the savings
little pot.
Yeah, and I have decided I make a poster where I put all the screenshots from all the people who have been in the Wisdom Factory so far.
Oh, we didn't put Hans in.
No, because he is not a presenter in the official show. No, he is in.
Would you like to be a presenter?
No, he is in. He is in. I did 2 or 3 screenshots from the blabs, so he is in.
Oh, okay.
And I'm looking on Fiverr.
You're talking about the Integro Europe conference in Hungary, right?
Yeah. And I was on Fiverr. This is a platform where normally Pakistani, Indian people offer the services for not so much money. And I checked it out. Now I've forgotten why I wanted to say that. Because of...
the price. we were looking at the different prices people were offering.
Different prices. So somebody, I made a description what I wanted, and then people apply for that. And there were 20 applications, and from 5, 14, 20, 25, 35, $40, 55, and then one was 300. And I thought probably they got the 0 wrong or something. Or is it a tactic? Because we were first attracted to the 41, no? Mm-hmm. And is it that you think if it is expensive, then they make it better?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's tricky, you know. I mean, on the one hand, people want everything for free, but on the other hand, if everything is for free, people also tend to assume that it might not be worth much, you know. So it's
exactly,
it's so tricky. Like, but at this business, I'm really bad. Like, I hate it. When I lived in the UK, I was surprised that always when you are in a job interview, people ask you, how much are you worth? Like, how much do you think you should be paid? And I was always totally lost. Like, I had never even thought about that. I don't know. Yeah, it's tricky, you know. Yeah.
So when you got your job, how did you do that? Did they tell you get the job for this and that money, and otherwise you don't get it, or how was it?
You mean the job that I have now, or?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, in the job I have now, there was no negotiations. Like, normally in social work, it's like if you work for a public place that is like from the government or something, there is like just depending. I mean, it's just like the same for everybody. Maybe depending on what kind of degree you have or something. And in the company that I work for, it's the same too. You start at the same wage. Maybe if you're a psychotherapist, there's one payment group for that. If you're a social worker, there's that. And then over the years, due to, like, what is that called? If you stay I mean, you climb up a little bit, like after 2 years, after 4 years, and it's just for being like faithful or loyal to the company.
We don't have to retrain him. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's I mean, I'm happy that, I mean, it seems to be the challenge now. I mean, if people who have a passion to do something in life and it's paid well because you are in the industry or something, maybe that's kind of easy. But if you have a passion for something that does not translate into money automatically, it's really tricky, you know. I mean, because like you guys, you're passionate about something, you're doing something great, and you also have to make a living and pay your bills and eat and all that. You know, I think often it's when people do, you know, artists often have the same dilemma, you know. It's like,
we were talking before on the social media, and I saw that people who offer, for instance, support for social media, for websites, for SEO, and for all these things, they can make money because that's what everybody needs. People who talk about spiritual things, self-development things, and not only me, you know, other people too, relationships, stuff like that, they get viewers, but they have a whole lot of problems to get any money because people don't really need it. You know, if you want to create a business, and that's why you maybe are in social media, you need a website, you need to know this and that. And as I have spent so much money in technicalities, in marketing and whatever courses, you know, you need that. And so they can use social media perfectly for getting traffic. I mean, clients.
Yes.
No?
So we think we're producers, but actually we're consumers.
Actually, we are consumers because we think when we take the other course, then finally I will get it, you know, something like that. And then the thing is, when they do courses, I started about 3 years ago, no, with marketing. I didn't even like the word marketing. It sounded horrible. Mm-hmm. And then they promise you that you get, a whole lot of, benefits. For instance, something like the
thousands of emails,
tele summits. Yeah. We are doing now the video summits, but then there was not yet video summits. There were tele summits. Yeah, do that, and then you get immediately, I don't know, 1,000, 5,000 email addresses and stuff. Mm-hmm. And I believed it for a while, and then you fall into a hole when you see that's not so, I mean, we are now at 180 of people who have subscribed for the series, and my goal was 1,000, and it's not. Mm-hmm. So, but I have never had any practical experience with it. I only believed what the people told us, So everybody seems to have this, and you believe it for a while, and then you think, oh, maybe it's not that.
And we are therefore led that we have to offer our potential clients
what do you mean?
Instant, progress, turn their life around.
When they all these promises, they feel so bad, I cannot, for instance, for singing. If I promise a client 10 lessons and then you're an opera singer, it's just not. But they're making money by promising this stuff, and at the end, I mean, it depends. When I did the Feminine Power course, they said it will transform your life completely and blah, blah. And it was some very
lofty
promise that I thought, come on. And afterwards, not after the 7-week course, but after I did it a year or two, I continued to do it. Then it was really true what they promised. So it's really always.
They even promised her she'd find me. Yeah.
Not really. Mm-hmm. And so we are talking about the edge, no?
Yeah. Okay. One thing that comes to my mind also is that, I mean, unfortunately, or I don't know if it's unfortunate, but if you look at the spiral dynamics or the evolution of the different worldviews, then actually what you are offering does not have a huge audience as in a percentage of the global community. So, I mean, if you look at, so you will more attract integrally interested or informed or and it's still a small percentage of the world's population. I mean, I'm a bit more lucky in that sense as, social work, I live basically, I can make my living on the misery of the world. I attend to very basic needs, people, needs of survival and food and shelter and being part of society. Social work often addresses very basic, important, essential needs, and they don't pay us a lot for it, but it seems there will always be some work for us around,
As long as the state pays for that, it's not them to pay for it. In our cases, when we are normal solopreneurs, the private person has to pay. For instance, in Italy, things like psychotherapy, you pay for private. Yeah. Many things you pay for private, even doctors, if you want to have it right away, because he has one analysis for October, with the statal system. Yeah. Anyway, we are very much used to pay things by ourselves, while in Germany, if they don't, if the Kasse, means the Kasse means the insurance. If they don't pay, they normally don't go, So, but on the other hand, okay.
Yeah, we're very lucky here. It has its downsides too, of course. I can see it sometimes because it can be very luxury. Almost, I sometimes notice some of the clients that I work with, I said, wow, you either have to be very rich to afford that kind of personal assistance, or you need be really down and you have to hit rock bottom, like that somebody comes and helps you with your post and with your communication with all sorts of offices and makes sure you don't use your flat and all that. I mean, it can be tempting also, to stay in that kind of safe cocoon, and then you don't have to go out and survive in the world. And some people, for some people, it can be a trap. But mostly, I'm very grateful to live in a country where we have these kinds of helps and services, and it can make a huge difference to people. Yeah.
I've had relatives. One of my brothers and his wife found themselves in a spot where they couldn't continue with the resources that they had, but if they spent everything, then they could get plenty of help.
Yeah. Yeah.
They had to get their savings down to almost nothing before social services would be helpful. So
yeah. So when the people go out of your care, what do? Do they try to find a job, or do they try to do something themselves, make a little business, small business?
It depends. Like now, as you know, I have changed within the same company. I have changed from giving personal assistance to people with psychiatric diagnoses. So they often had a good reason for having, troubles to just survive independently and live their own lives. There, as long as I worked in that field, basically my aim always was to make myself unnecessary as soon as I can. My boss didn't always like that because the government pays, for this kind of help. So if I, within 6 months, can help somebody to just live independently again, then that's can be a bit of a problem for the for the company. And so there were people like that, and they just need a little bit of somebody helping them to find some structure and a little bit of motivation and an outsider's view on things to get back into living independently. But many of those clients just had such severe issues. I mean, it's just clear that they will need some sort of assistance all the time because maybe the psychiatric condition is just too severe. It's not just, if somebody has a depression, at some point they get out of that. But if somebody is really schizophrenic or has recurrent psychotic episodes, they might always need somebody like me or something similar, so that they don't have to live locked away somewhere in a house, but can still have their own apartment and live somewhat independently. So now I'm working with refugees, and it's a bit
different.
It's not that it's a bit different, but at the same time, I'm working with them through a certain passage of their life. Or to make their short stay in Germany as pleasant and dignified as possible before they, unfortunately, might have to go back to where they come from. Or to, help them get set up here and move out of the refugee shelter and maybe find a job and learn the language and, find their way around Germany. So I also hope that they will be independent of my help as soon as possible.
So when we go back to the title we had, relationship building through social media, you are very much in relationship in one-to-one, but it is a non-peer relationship. No?
It is not?
Because you non-peer.
Okay.
Non-peer. You are sort of the helper, and they are the receivers in a way. So I was thinking about what we came into the talk at the end. In social media, you can build wonderful relationships. I know you, I know Henrik, I know Christina I knew in person, but many people I consider my friends, I know by social media and by video, not so much by writing. By writing, I don't often feel a big connection to people. It's just, it's sort of, I take away a part of me when I just write a comment or something. It's not, while here it's like you sit here in my living room, so
we have paintings too.
let me try to follow my thread here. The good thing of social media that we can create this sort of connection when we give the time to it, as we do, as you do, as Henrik does, listening to us. The other thing, as you described, you get sucked into social media. You get seduced to be everywhere at the same time and thinking you have to answer that and you have to do that and you have to do that and you have to do that. And then you might have maybe 100 people or even more, but you don't really connect to them. So this probably we know that you can never have only one side of the coin, it's both. But it was, for me, was very interesting again to hear you have to focus. Also, I will do the two things because one is mine and the other is ours. But hi, yes, at home.
Henrik, hello. Looks like the end of the day for you.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Well, great. I'm glad to see you. Anyway.
I just joined in here for a few minutes. I'm cooking, so I'm just listening and doing some cooking at the same time. So.
Oh. Well, let me ask you. Let me ask you a question, Henrik. Last week, we ended up with a question, and I need help remembering it. We were playing with the idea of it would be interesting to look at X, Y, Z, whatever it was, through the different levels of development. And do you remember what the subject was that we thought would be fun to look at?
We have to go to the recording.
No, I'm sorry, I can't remember right now at this moment.
We'll have to go look at the video.
Yeah, because when the
precocious senility. Wow.
When we have right senility, not precocious. I wanted to say when the series is over, then we have again just community blabs, and then we can do whatever we want to do.
Are you all guys going to the conference?
I think they just flew out. I'm gonna go, and Heidi and Mark just said that they are most likely also going, if I understood them correctly.
Me too.
Great. Great. Are you gonna stay for that bus tour as well?
No, I have to leave so I'm just staying for the
conference.
Integral conference.
Okay.
Yeah. So, do you have the CDs from the Superhuman course?
No, I never bought. There was different options from the course, and I didn't book that expensive, or the more expensive version. You got the CDs. I got it all as downloads, I think, and then I was lazy enough to not download them all. But yeah.
So it disappeared in the atmosphere.
Some of the other members were offering to shut up.
Can't hear me, I guess, but I do have the program all downloaded.
Okay. So you can see and hear us now, Mark?
That would be help to somebody.
Okay. Well, so it's a bumpy ride. Okay. Yeah.
I missed the main show before the
Yeah.
Blab. Can you tell me something about?
I mean, this time it pretty much had the character of like a bit of a business coaching session for Heidi and Mark, where the question was like how to get your message out, and they were asking for advice and some tips on, you know, how to build that online business community. I don't know why, but I always forget names when I was just introduced to people. Is his name Martin as well, who was doing the conversation? I think, yes. And yes, that was basically it. And yeah, and then we were talking about, before you came in, about, you know, how we relate to business so far. I mean, I've never seen myself as a business person. I'm like yourself. You're a social worker too, aren't you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. But I'm interested in exploring this business arena, or you know, making projects and stuff like that. Because I wonder if that's a way to integrate Orange more in.
Yes. We talked about that a few minutes ago in the Blab too. I think it's a lot of us people kind of still busy climbing out of green are very reluctant and skeptical about all these Orange ideas and strategies and all that. And it's a challenge to get that back on board again, you know?
Yeah. And I also, one of the main challenges, I think, is, I don't know if I'm wrong, but it seems to me like a long time ago on Integral Life, it was a show on how to talk to or address to different levels of consciousness when it comes to environment. But and there is also a talk about integral cinema and how you have different levels of consciousness in the narrative. And I think that's the trick if you want to have a big audience, because if you're tired of just reaching out to the Orange success failure concept and busy life and, you know, looking fabulous kind of lifestyle, if you're tired of that, which you eventually get to when you're like at green, and then you grow out of green, you have to, or you don't have to do anything, but there's more to it if you're like addressing several levels at the same time, but different levels will resonate with a marketing message, or you have to have some buzzwords like in your program or in your show or concept, whatever you're advocating. So that is resonating like with the green, the blue, the orange, like politicians. How can politicians, how can we have a policy that will unite consciousness, so that, for like example, the environment is the same thing, like how can we create cooperation globally with more still addressing the red and the blue and the orange and the green and the teal and the and onwards.
Yeah,
So I think that would, if we can develop a multi-narrative level and the message out, then and find the skills and means there to do that, whatever the subject is, like on terrorism or whatever, water crisis, hunger. Then we're definitely in the right track, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a huge challenge to me. That's why I'm already always different to most of my peers, and I think it comes with the integral arena, and mostly very appreciative of most politicians, actually. Even like, for example, in Germany, I don't know all the politicians, of course, but if I look at our own leaders here in Germany, I don't agree with everything, of course, but I think it's such a challenging, complex task. You know, I mean, no matter what you do, I mean, sometimes I can nearly feel it, like they want to do like the great thing, but then 70% of the population is not that far yet, and they have to take them on board too. So, but then the progressives complain and they say, oh, they sell themselves out and doing all this, you know, traditional or, you know, it's a huge challenge, I think, if you're really in a position of responsibility for loads of people and even having some power, you know, to influence so many people. I personally certainly would not want to be in that position. And so I think most people are really trying to do a good.
Well, our dear politicians are, so I guess our politicians are, and they need that help. But I also think for the cause of humanity, we, the integral community, has to come up with some helpful skills and means, and to lend ourselves, both to ourselves, but also to people with important work on the global arena, and politicians and so on, so that we, instead of like, well, it doesn't matter if green is complaining about orange, actually. That's part of the business of being green, but you can still have orange and green go together better or worse, and green or orange and blue and red and blue and so on. So how do you get the different levels you know, working better in the same direction? You can't force everyone to be at the same level, which is what green is trying to do.
Exactly.
Because they can't stand jerkishness.
Well,
in general,
I think, well, first of all, you need to understand what the different needs are, and you need to constantly address them and use the language of those worldviews too. So, and I think a lot of that is already happening, for example, in Germany or in the Nordic countries and in many other more and more places on Earth, with the whole kind of green technology and alternative energies and all that, because it is both speaking to green and speaking to orange business concerns at the same time, because apparently you can actually make a lot of money whilst saving the environment at the same time. So there's a bit of an integration going on there.
Yeah.
I mean, don't you think, because before you said the integral community, you know, should step in or do things. Don't you think, or don't you witness that, or I seem to be noticing that, I think a lot of, because integral is not only like an idea or a theory, it's just, it seems to be naturally just coming more and more online, even in people who have never read or heard of Ken Wilber or those people. I seem to be witnessing more and more integration all over the place already. It makes me very hopeful. I mean, if I look, for example, at the German Chancellor Merkel, I mean, of course, she is criticized from all sorts of directions for different reasons, depending on what your worldview is. But I can often see that she is actually addressing loads of different levels. She's definitely addressing the humanitarian, thing of allowing refugees into Germany, and she's been criticized from the more conservative people and that. But she's also selling it to people as this is a chance for Germany, and we can become even wealthier as a nation with that. And she's also addressing she's from the Christian party, so it's kind of good, I think, that she is having this kind of humanitarian stance as well, because she's a very traditional woman at the same time. One of the reasons why I never voted for her, she's not for gay marriage or any of that. Or maybe she is, but she understands that the majority of the people electing her are not ready for it. That's what I sometimes but I see that she already understands there's a certain common sense going on. And it doesn't mean that she doesn't do mistakes, but she recognizes that there is different groups of people, and she needs to consider them all. One of many examples, I see this kind of thing happen more and more.
I also think that the thing with the terrorists and the refugee question has awakened some of the politicians from just being in the green slumber or the green sleep, because it has forced them to consider in a more they have to manage a much more complex situation. Unfortunately, the European Parliament and all the nations are acting more in like psychopaths than in collaboration. Everyone is protecting their own national border and their own ethnicity. So it remains more like on a amber level, the amber and red level, and they're speaking more to those groups instead of like, how can we embrace the bigger picture? And I wonder if that's how the European Parliament and that system is set up, that there's a lack of influence in democracy and lack of transparency in governance and so on. So, and lack of efficiency of governmental when they have made decisions on the European Parliament, they have a very tough time to make it happen. So they make a decision and no one cares, or everybody or all the nations are doing their own thing anyway. So then there's a lack of trust in the project. So and that's not good for not the nations and not for growing, because the nations are just contracting instead of like growing together.
But the bright,
in a sad way,
the bright side of that, though, is I suppose that as these problems are becoming more and more in the public eye, and like some people have said, it's like the dark side of globalization is, hitting everybody on the nose more and more. It heightens the motivation to find more intelligent solutions, and I feel people are more and more willing to work together more, because they just realize they just can't do it by themselves. I think like I said before, human beings have always been motivated mostly by first experiencing a lot of shit and suffering, and then to learn from that experience. Unfortunately, we seem needing all these like catastrophes. It's still part of our growth process. We need that material. Unfortunately, but
when how challenges makes you grow there's a lot of challenges now to balance in between. So, and I think that's what the regular politicians are noticing, that there's no time to just sit back and relax as when everything was going smooth and easy. And now the economies are prosperous in some of the northern countries, and maybe Germany too, I guess. But there are some huge other challenges, like the terrorist question and the refugee question and the environment question and so on. But all those questions really comes down to, that's it, very important for all citizens. And how do you speak to each other in a country or wherever on a multi-level consciousness? So we all have to learn new ways of speaking.
Yes, totally. I was just thinking that, I mean, no, but probably it's also because Heidi and Mark are not here and they cannot remind us of staying on subject. I wonder if
subject. They say, damn it.
I wonder if they're going to complain that we totally hijacked this. Oh, they're writing something. Wait. We checked other computers, always the same thing. Hangouts work now, but not blah. Weird. You go on and talk, and when you are ready, just hang up. Sorry for that. I will contact Blab tomorrow and ask what happened. Okay. We're having it's a bit like the parents are out of the house and now we can misbehave. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Well, we tried in some way, because it's still about marketing, and this way of marketing, I think it has to be multi-leveled.
Yes, I mean, it's the same.
If you're gonna, otherwise.
Yes. In the end, it's always the same thing. I mean, no matter if you look into your own person and you have to somehow integrate all those various voices and levels, or if you are talking about a relationship or a company or a nation, I think these ideas always apply, like these basic patterns, like that, and what comes with the integral perspective is that you more and more notice and appreciate all those different levels, and you understand the importance of addressing them all. But that, of course, doesn't make it easier. It becomes more and more complex and more challenging. And in the business, that's what I said before, like in social work, it's like the orange is often ignored as well. Very green, like.
What is supporting what is deciding the video signal? Is it local or or yours, or I don't get this Blab thing?
Yeah, I don't know. I must say I am the worst person on earth, like when it comes to understanding and like wrapping my head around these technical issues. I have no idea. I don't know it, but speaking intuitively, I would think in this instance, it's more on your side, I think, because I remember that happened before when we were all in the talk, and when I looked at the recording, it also was that there was some audio-only parts of you, and that didn't seem to have happened on my side, if I remember correctly. And that thing what Heidi and Mark are that thing that Heidi and Mark are experiencing certainly seems to be on their side. I don't know if it's the line or the computer or whatever. But
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it can be very frustrating. Okay. Yeah, so it's kind of strange. So they basically said goodbye already, and they are apologizing. So they instructing us to somehow talk and then wrap it up.
To sum it up.
Just like drop out. Okay. So I don't know if they would.
So what do we have to say to sum it up and wrap it up?
Okay. Did you? No, you go ahead.
No.
Okay.
I'll wait for you.
Well, okay. I'm not the best on focusing sometimes, and that was actually an issue that was in the course as well. That we talked about, you know, how all these like online opportunities, like, and if you talk about business or even just like social media in general, it's just so. I mean, you can so easily get lost in it, and you check your Twitter and your Facebook and your email and text messages and all these things, and your Google Plus and all that, and they were talking about how like you need to sometimes just to limit yourself and minimalize a bit and not get totally lost like in these things, and have some sort of focus that you come back to. And even though I'm not offering any product and I'm not a business person, but I feel that challenge a lot, or that dilemma too, because I'm thrilled on the one hand to have access now to online cyber world and can connect to people like you or Heidi or Mark, or just people that I wouldn't just happen to meet down, you know, the street, and people that have a similar interest. And it's great, you know, that the world is open to me. But at the same time, I don't feel like there's just so much data coming in, so much information, so much opportunities. It's there is an exhausting and tiring quality to it all too, if I don't apply a lot of discipline. And especially when we have jobs still, because I have a full-time job as a social worker in the refugee field, and there's so much information and things happening all the time. So I often find I really have to limit my online presence and have to be a bit selective about like what I do online, and I don't want like these circles under my eyes to grow any bigger. It's really like I find it very challenging, you know, because it's always at your fingertips, one click and you're there, and then this article and this links to that, and then you come there, and it's just and I think our brains are not used to that. Like, I mean, only a few years ago, even when we were maybe 10 or 15 years ago, we didn't have our heads like plugged into all those cyber worlds and being connected everywhere in the world. So I think just even on a organic, like biological plane as well, it must be somewhat confusing to our systems to have all this information coming in all the time, and to somehow organize that and handle it.
It's a preparation for the cyber era.
I don't know.
I'm just kidding around, but I think it's the subject is very similar to the mindfulness instruction. Like, I think when you have this internet, it's more like this mind chatter. And if you want to get things done, you have to structure or give yourself some plan, or, you know, some order to have your focus on. Otherwise you're just going all over the place, like all the time. And I think people feel more pressure to organize their focus, so that they have time for work and a certain task there, or maybe they want to have dwell into some reading or some article, but you organize that. If you're just randomly pulled into things, you don't feel that you're the captain on your choosing.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's okay if you don't have anything to do, but sometimes you feel frustrated because you don't you just randomly pulled in different arenas.
Yeah.
And then you don't get things done, and you end up frustrating that you're not maybe. I recognize what you say so much, because these times are really calling for us to be attentive in that respect to what do we want to do with our valuable time, and how do we want to integrate new knowledge and make a new output.
It's same that.
Yeah, I mean, there's time for reading, time for writing, time for producing. Time, so I think it's more important to do that. Yes.
Yes, and I think it was never more challenging than now, because people at no time in history were ever exposed to that much stimulation, information, options. It's that's what I mean. And our bodies and systems are pretty much more or less the same than they were like 1,000 years ago or 5,000 years ago. But the world has changed radically, and I mean,
definitely,
it's wild.
There's so much to know that no one. There's so much to know that no one can. Even if you spent a lifetime trying to read everything, you wouldn't be able to encompass it, or so. And the same with internet. It's infinite information, so you have to really choose, so you don't get like obese information with no output. You have to find a functional fit.
Yeah, it's like a binge eating of information sometimes. And I think it's like, I mean, you can have like an information addiction basically, or a stimulation addiction. And I always notice, like, I'm very, as soon as something is within my reach, then I can really, like, what is it called? I can become, I can fall into a gluttony trap. Like, if I have sweets in the home or something, then I will eat them. If I don't have them in the home, I'm totally fine. I noticed the same with the internet, because I thought, oh, maybe I'm addicted to the internet. But whenever I go on a vacation or something and don't take my computer with me, and I'm somewhere in nature, I don't miss my computer or my emails or my internet at all. I have no cravings. But as soon as I only have to like stretch my arm and open my computer, I will be very likely to do that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So maybe we have to experiment and try to experiment with some discipline, and how do you structure and order things and connect with yourself to have functional output and input.
Yes, and a healthy balance will be different.
I've been grappling with that question. Yeah, healthy balance is different for different people in different life events. I mean, if you have a family, a full-time job, and kids, and all that are small, or if they're grown up, or a whole different ballgame.
Exactly. Oh well, I think maybe because I don't know what's going to happen to this, because those guys have to edit this recording afterwards. They probably have to like the last half hours, and but at least for me it was very.
What are they talking about? They totally went off the show.
Well, at least we, the two of us, had a good conversation. That's worth something too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah, same here, Henrik.
See you around.
See you around, and
you too. Bye bye.
Latest in Hungary.